biggest obstacle is to be able to go out there and prove that it can be done. He's doing something a lot differently than you could say, the average person. Now he has to go out there and show them that it can be done. How many people do you see shooting on a line with their teeth?
This young man probably doesn't know it, but he supposedly has a handicap in that his left arm is, shall we say, useless, and he shoots by putting the string in his teeth and pushing out with his bow away from him and lets it go by opening his mouth. That is the way you do that, isn't it? And he's a very good shooter, I'll tell you. Very good.
He's venturing into an area that is almost a, not only a challenge to him physically, but mentally. Saying, can I go out there and shoot with these people? Not only is he doing it, he's beating a lot of them too.
Michael started out 4 years ago with a 7-pound bow, and we built him up to about 35 pounds, and he was shooting a compound bow. We went out and we took a piece of leather and tied it around the string, and he pulled back 7 pounds. That's as much as he could pull back, 7 pounds. And the third shot, he hit the target. And he turned around and he said, "Dad, I'm an archer." So we bought him a bow and took him down the basement. We have the cabinets downstairs to attest to. He shot his arm up, but he was bound and determined. I said, "Mike, how many arrows are you shooting a day?" And he said, "Oh, about 100. I said, "Do you like that?" And he said, "I love it." So we said, "All right, well, get him a new bow." Got him a new bow, new arrows. He's just done it ever since. He just really enjoys it. That's always been a concern of mine, that is he shooting that bow because he wants to, or is he shooting that bow because Dad wants him to? If it's not fun for him, then it's no fun at all. He has to get the enjoyment out of it, not me. Michael at the present time is shooting 40 pounds with the recurve. That's the amount of weight that he needs to shoot his arrow 90 meters, which the international competition is all based on. 90 meters, 70 meters, 50 meters, and 30 meters. 36 arrows at each one of those distances. And so Michael hopes that he's going to end up being the Olympic gold medal champion for a handicapped archer. That tournament's going to be held in Korea. We all know of the able-bodied Olympics that are being held in Korea. Well, 2 weeks after the able-bodied Olympics, they have a set of games called the Paralympics. In the Paralympics, I believe it's 1,700 different people from throughout the world are going to compete in Seoul, Korea for their Olympics. Now, they're going to do as many things as the able-bodied do as can be done. Michael shoots right now with the able-bodied shooters in the United States. Last year he was rated as the 10th best shooter in the United States. Now that includes all able-bodied people. The rating there was for all kids of his age, and he was rated number 10. That's quite an accomplishment when you figure that he's the only one who pulls the bow back with his teeth.
Michael never slept through a whole night in a bed, really. He just, what we did was we carried him in our arms all night long, and we, as one person would come down the steps and take the floor with Michael, we'd turn him over in our arms, and the poor little kid, he just slept on through. And then when the house was completed out in Shoreview, I missed Mother and Dad's help, and I missed Tom's help, and I was walking the floor with Michael one night, and I heard a little voice say, "That's okay, Mom, I'll take Mike, and you can go to bed now." And here I looked at was my daughter Susie, and she had to go to school the next day. And I was tired enough that I handed the baby to her, and she walked. She walked that night. And stuff like this is what pulls families together when the times get tough, and it makes memories sweet.
Well, Michael has spastic cerebral palsy, which he's had from his infancy, and Of course, the definition of cerebral palsy is that it's a static injury to the brain which does not get better, but it doesn't get worse. And so although we can treat some of the manifestations of cerebral palsy, the joint contractures or muscle imbalances, you cannot cure the cerebral palsy.
This is a normal scan for comparison, and it's rather like looking at a head from the top down. All of this represents the brain substance, and the dark white area represents the skull. This is a normal patient, and the fluid areas of the brain you can see in the middle are quite small, and both sides are about equal. This is a scan that we obtained on Mike. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and you can see that there is a huge area of brain involving the right side of the head, which has been destroyed. This is the equivalent of a small child having a stroke, the same kind of process that one sees in elderly individuals. And in addition to having this whole area of tissue destroyed, the remaining part of the right side of his brain is very small, and the left side is normal or slightly enlarged. It became apparent after that Michael had made remarkable progress considering his handicaps, and was placed on medication to control his seizures, which have come under control relatively easily, and he has done exceptionally well.
We would sit and say, do you think you can do this? And he would look at you like you were nuts. I mean, naturally I can do that. Well, I'm not going to do it the way you want to do it, but I can do it. When Michael was 3, 4 maybe, he would get up an hour ahead of everybody else so he could dress himself, so no one would have to dress himself. He always would sit there and try to figure out a way to do it. And he'd get it done. And sometimes you'd sit back and just shake your head and say, I can't believe it. But he did it. He's always been probably the hardest working kid I've ever seen. He's never said, well, I can't do this. Well, he has, but I mean, he's got a foot in the rear end. You know what I mean.
Because Mike has epilepsy, there are several physical activities which he ought not to participate in, at least so long as he has a tendency to have seizures, because those activities would be dangerous to his well-being, not because he is unable to do them physically. On the other hand, both because of his determination and because he has made so much progress in acquiring the necessary skills, archery, which has been his passion and great interest for many years, is certainly a very good choice for a sport in which he can excel to whatever his capabilities are.
The 33 different surgeries that he's had have entitled a payment to the university of a little over $1 million. And every time that you walk in there, they all kind of smile, because what they're doing with Michael is successful, and besides that they're not bankrupting you. They're kind of happy when they work with somebody and the results are kind of like a home run every time that they operate. The results are good.
Some children, such as Michael, might wish to set out and be an all-state track star. That's clearly not a realistic goal. If they can understand that and set a realistic goal, other children are assumed by their parents or by their school or by themselves that they're handicapped, and therefore they can't do anything, and they're usually right that way. They don't do anything. So it's a matter of setting realistic but ambitious goals, and I think Michael's done that very, very skillfully.
Over at the university, Michael went through all these tests, and the last people to give him the tests were the psychologist and the psychiatrist. And they went through all the tests, and anyway, they didn't think Michael would go as far as the 2nd grade. That was at that time. And he proved them wrong. And so then the psychologist and psychiatrist wrote a letter back to the schools and our family, and they said, let the schools and the family take Michael as far as he can grow.
Michael has taken those limitations and made them into his strengths. And that's the whole key thing about, you know, living. This guy has turned around and he's taken archery as a challenge. Not only, like I said before, he's taken archery to where it is not only just a challenge, but he's far exceeded any expectations, I think, of himself and what his father has felt. He's gone way beyond that, haven't you? You ever felt like you could shoot a .590 before you picked up archery? And see, that's the whole key. This guy is all of a sudden, and not only does it bring out his shooting ability, but I bet you Michael has improved in a lot of other things in his way of life, because he believes in himself all of a sudden. He says, hey, if I put my mind to it, I can accomplish more things than anybody ever told me I could before. So, I mean, archery is not just something to where it's a leisure sport. This is making this guy grow.
It's done wonders. We had Michael doing some tests at the university, and the doctor who was giving the test said Michael would never do any well in mathematics at all, because the part of the brain that does the abstract thinking is missing. So don't expect Michael to do anything in math. So one day he was down at shooting, and he came back and he said, what's 64 and 18? And I said, 82. Yeah, he said, they only gave me 81. They're trying to cheat me. I said, how did you know that? He says, well, you got to be able to add if you're going to go and get an archery. And he can add. It's just, I thought, holy mackerel, this thing has really done wonders for him. So, believe it or not, I mean, he's a freshman in high school. He's taken algebra this year. This is a kid that they said, hey, he'll never go to a normal school. And here he is taking algebra. One of the things that is extremely important to us is the fact that we've had adequate hospitalization through the Central States of the Teamsters. When we took Michael to the university and the doctor said, we'd like to try something, it was always covered, and we knew it was going to be covered. It was never a concern of ours that we were going to financially be broke because of a medical bill that we had. And that really made a big difference to me. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they paid anything they weren't supposed to, but they paid everything that they agreed to pay, and they paid it in a manner that the doctors at the university said, hey, we can try these other things without knowing that we're going to bankrupt your family. They're very concerned about that over there. Everybody says, well, they probably aren't, but the individual doctors are very concerned about that.
The type of programs and the type of funding which are given to programs are frequently the limiting factors in how much can be done for children. Now, there are certain children that no matter how much you spend, you can't reach beyond a certain level. In other children, such as Michael, the expenditures bring some tangible results.
The reason me and Harold Yates are such good friends because I've almost grown up with the Teamsters, and they were there when I needed them, and they paid all my bills when I was sick, and I really couldn't ask much. And then when I got into archery, they just bent over backwards for me.
The collective bargaining process is a vehicle that has given us, and it's a good vehicle to address the problems of health care for the workers in the industry. Nobody can put a price on what a life is worth. As time goes on with the new medication, the transplants that are taking place, without this vehicle in place, I think we'd be in very serious trouble for your workers and our members. And I think both sides have accomplished goals far beyond what they expected when the vehicle was put together. I'm proud of it, and I don't think you could talk to a worker that would say anything other than that, because it's opened up doors that weren't possible. It's opened up doors that's not possible in other industries. I think the employers in this industry can be proud of the achievements that they've accomplished.
Well, I think over the years, this matter of collective bargaining has proven out to be good both for the men and for the companies. It provides us with a stability. We know where we're at for the length of the contract, and it's important to us as employers that our people can come to work not being concerned about whether or not they're covered in the event of sickness or accident, things like that. So I think it's a good concept, and with our industry and the Teamsters, it has been proven that it works. So.
When you go to work, you don't have to be afraid that the next phone call is going to be some collection agency wrapping you because you have a big medical bill that you can't possibly pay. This really helps us out a lot. It also helps us in the fact that the other 4 kids that we have been able to have a normal life also. We could buy them the bicycles and the toys, the baseball gloves, the footballs, the skates, the band instruments that you normally would buy for a family.
In the 3 years I've known Michael and watched his progress, and the progress that other handicapped children can make shooting a bow and arrow, it's a lot easier to shoot a bow than they think. And I hope that this film is going to introduce a lot of our youngsters into the sport of archery, because there's no telling where they can go. It's something that we can all do, and Michael is living proof that you can shoot the bow even though you have a severe handicap.
What I gain out of it, most likely someone's going to gain out of it, and it's going to change their life for it. I'm no different than any other handicap. It's just going to change their life. I just do things different, but I'm basically the same person. Handicapped people are no different than anybody else. They gotta do the same thing, and they gotta perform to the same standards of what they can. The key is practice, and if you practice a lot, you're gonna perfect it so much that you're gonna be good.
Archery, first of all, it's a physical sport. Again, Michael had to learn how to use some adaptive equipment, and we had to work on some different pieces of equipment to work for him. Then you get your equipment working, and you get your physical part of your game going pretty good. Then the last final stage of shooting a bow and arrow and competing on this level and on the level that he hopes to go to is the mental approach to the game. You've got to be able to have confidence in yourself, number one, and number two, be able to filter out everything else that's going on around you and concentrate just on exactly what you're supposed to do and what you know you have to do in order to compete and eventually win and be number one.
I know what I gotta do, and when a person says anything, I'll take that into consideration, but mainly it goes through one ear and out the other ear, and I constantly go to what my coach says. I don't let anybody bother me.
Well, what they should have is the confidence that they're going to shoot well. Now, I don't like for a student to go up there and be thinking about everything that he's supposed to be doing, because those things are supposed to be automatic before he ever gets there. And it's all in the subconscious. And if he will let the subconscious operate as it should, then he will shoot well. It's when he gets uptight and he tries to help it. In other words, he gets concerned too much. Then he tightens up the muscles, and the muscles can't act as freely as they should and are not as accurate. So he needs to go there believing that everything is fine. He concentrates on where he wants the arrow to go and believes.
When I go up to the line, it's me and the target and nobody else. Somebody can fall right in front of me and I'll keep on right on shooting because I'm so locked into that bullseye, I let nothing bother me. I usually most likely block out the crowd and every noise that's around me. I just concentrate directly on that bullseye.
I was asked if his style of shooting bothered me when he was shooting next to me, and I've always felt the same thing all the time, and that's that once I step to the line, nothing bothers me. It's a mental game I play within myself, knowing even if something did bother me, ever, I would not allow it to, mentally, because I tell myself I won't let it. I'm within it's called focused concentration. Once I step to the line, I'm within my own little world. There's nothing between me and the center of the target.
If an able-bodied person used that equipment, they would question, is it legal or is it not legal? If a person who is not able-bodied, then they have got to use some form of a technique to be able to be compatible with the rest of the archers. I look at it as saying, I'd much rather be in my shoes, being able to shoot like this, than be in Michael's shoes and shooting like he is. So more willpower to him. I have a great admiration for this guy, being able to go out there and do what he's doing.
When I practice, I try to shoot exactly the same way I do in a tournament, because then I won't get mixed up when I go to a tournament. Let's say if I shoot a practice and I shoot 5 arrows in 2 minutes, and I go to a tournament and shoot 5 arrows in 4 minutes, I'm going to be totally mixed up, and I probably ain't going to get a good score. And that's when I practice. I shoot 5 arrows for 4 minutes, and I shoot 5 arrows for 4 minutes in a tournament. That's where you get your 300.
If you're at a demonstration and you make a mistake, does that bother you?
No, because if I make a mistake, I just make a joke out of it. Where if in a tournament, I don't make a joke about it, I'm serious then.
I'd like to introduce you this morning to my son Michael. Michael is a handicapped kid, and most of you have been studying about the handicapped kids for the last couple of weeks. Most of you find out that the handicapped people can do the same thing that you can do, only they have to do it a little bit different. They have to adapt a different way of doing the things that you kids do. One of the things I'd like to show you is Michael's brace on his hand here. What this brace is doing is Michael's brain wants his hand to fold up like this. And all the brace is doing is pulling the hand out so it's more comfortable for him. Michael has a condition called cerebral palsy. And that really is what it is a stroke that occurs during birth. Now Mike's going to try to shoot, and we're going to put 3 balloons on the arrow and see if he can break all 3 at one time.
Michael had a teacher in school that wanted to show the other kids what it was like, so she made the kids put their left hand in their pocket for a whole day. And all of a sudden the kids realized how terrible this was. Then she made them take their shoes off and tie their shoes one-handed. She says, you know, one little girl did it, but that was the only one. Well, this teacher bought Michael an electric pencil sharpener, and of course all the kids in the class wanted to use it. And so she said, okay, anybody who can sharpen their pencil with one hand, in the manual one, they can use the electric pencil sharpener. I really thought she was a fantastic teacher because she really made Michael's life open up.
There have been many modern advances in the care and treatment of children with cerebral palsy and epilepsy and motor handicaps in the past decade or so. Because of that, a great many more children are surviving insults in the newborn period and have some modest or minor motor or intellectual handicap. Overall, the prognosis for these children, because of new treatment modalities and new diagnostic equipment, is overall very much better
than it was, for instance, when I first started my training. And I think that we all need to bear that in mind when dealing with these children and in thinking about what their future holds.
And when I first met Michael, he was shooting just 10 yards away. And when I told him he could shoot 20 yards if he wanted to, he said he wanted to. And then we began working at 20 yards. And from then, he started out just doing much better every single time that he shot. So I feel like he can go as far as he wants to go.
Mainly to win the World Championship, and if I can, to get a CP team going and get made the Olympic coach. That's my ultimate dream, is to get a CP team going and be the Olympic coach. That would, I'd be so happy with that rather than just making a team right now. It's a fun sport. It's something that you can do for the rest of your life. It ain't like football there, if you get a bad leg that you gotta quit. It's something that you can always do. I've seen people who's 70 years old who are shooting, and that's no joke. Something you can always do.